Hello, everybody. Welcome to another exciting episode of Jimmy's Jambox. We're here. We're back at it again, and we're going to get on into it. But before we do, as always, please make sure to like, subscribe, push all the buttons, do all the things. You know, I don't know where they are, but you do, and I trust you. And with that being said, here's a quick word from our sponsors. Organic herbs and botanicals, skincare and edibles, wellness for body and mind. The Brothers Apothecary. Fine teas and remedies. Ronald Records. From indie gems to classic hits, discover the heart of local music. With live shows all the time, up close and personal, and regular releases on their in-house label. Ronald Records. Supporting the community, one track at a time. All right, thank you all so much for watching. Again, shout out The Brothers Apothecary, Ronald Records, and Portland Water. Thanks for keeping us hydrated. And with that being said, let's go ahead and get on into it. Here is today's guest.
Hi, I'm Zane Thomas.
Hello.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, it's an honor. I appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Why don't you tell us a little bit about, who you are, where you're from, what you do? Give us that Tinder profile of your involvement with music.
Tinder profile of my involvement in music. So I started off as a comedian, but I'm currently doing a lot of hip hop and rap. So I do music production. I do songwriting. I play a little bit of guitar, piano. So
okay.
Yeah. Try to stay busy.
Yeah, I love that. What was the start of comedy? I know that's kind of, we're going to focus more on the music in this.
We can talk about all of it.
Let's do the linear progression. When did you start in comedy?
Yeah, comedy, I started in Iowa. So I moved to Iowa. I was there for about a year. Basically tried it out, cut my teeth, and then had a lot of real goofy experiences. And
imagine, what is the Iowa comedy scene like?
It's so awkward. It's just bars that don't want you there.
What was the name of the comedy
club?
Yeah.
Oh man, there was called the Octopus, was as close as we had to a comedy club.
Okay.
At that area. Yeah. It was like a college bar, and they would have a once a month open mic, which was kind of like a showcase.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing else going on.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a way to try it out, but I would definitely say since moving to Portland, I've probably taken it more seriously, and that was about 2016 was when I moved over here.
Gotcha. Okay. And did you come out here for comedy?
Yeah. I came out here with the intention of I don't know, just finally pursuing it, because it was both music and comedy have been lifelong things that I've always wanted to do. Mm-hmm. But I think a lot of the time it's just being in the right place.
Yeah, very much so. Now, do you mind if I ask why you went to Portland versus I don't think Austin was really popping at the time, but
Sure.
New York or LA, the two comedy meccas?
Sure. I think for me that Portland, just the spirit of Portland, the people here, a lot of the beliefs, the belief systems, those are things that really aligned with me. So I think that if I was going to create any sort of art, I wanted to be in a place that I aligned with.
Okay. I dig that. Well, hey, you and I moved here at the same time, full on. So
cool.
I could dig it. And then when did you get more into music definitive, or what led to kind of that turn, I guess?
Yeah. So I actually spent about 3 years in China. I was an English teacher.
Cool.
Yeah. And
I assume you speak Mandarin?
Yes.
Nice.
Yes. But I'd moved over there with the sole intent of buying music equipment, so that way I could come back, move to Portland. And so it was a whole long multi-step thing. So the music production and stuff like that was probably back in 2012. That was when I started on that.
Okay.
But I wasn't any good, and I wasn't really recording anything I was proud of, but it was probably around 2017, 2018 that I really started getting songs that I was happy with.
Gotcha. What DAW do you use?
So I use Ableton and Reason.
Nice.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Reason.
Okay. Yeah. That is a wild left turn.
Thank you. But you can use it in any DAW, so why not?
Now you can. Yeah. That and it will give you stuff that you will not get anywhere else.
Mm-hmm.
That is the one thing Reason can stand on is it is truly the obscure DAW.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. They're you want a weird sound? We got it.
But combined with Ableton, I actually never that is
so much fun.
You are a smart individual.
Thank you.
I am in love with that idea. All right. Now, before we get into more what you do in the present day, I do have a couple foundation questions I like to check in with everybody on.
Okay.
And this first one is one we ask early. It's one we ask often, and it's definitely a crowd favorite. What was the first album you ever bought with your own money?
First album that I ever bought with my own money, I believe, was a POS CD. Yeah. So I grew up on a lot of like independent hip hop. So it like when I started, like I remember Atmosphere, those were like CDs that were bought for me, but it wasn't until like I started finding other artists that were outside of like just the you know, like the general indie hip hop. I was like, oh, okay, this is something I really want to like follow through with. Yeah. So
Gotcha.
He's a rapper. He has like a punk background, so he's definitely like one of his first songs that like I went and hunted down was it was called POS is Ruining My Life, and it had like electric guitars in it, and it was so epic that I was just like, how do I combine genres? It was the first time I really heard like a fusion of any sort that like sounded good.
Gotcha.
Because like I like hip hop and I like metal. I do not like rap metal.
No, yeah, it's a very bizarre line.
But sometimes it's good.
Yeah.
But it's only when hip hop can do what hip hop does best and metal can do what it does best. But anytime they sacrifice, I'm just like, oh, this is just bad for both of them.
Well, see, there was also this weird point in time where like we started getting some of the artists that were like exemplifying it done well, but then you were getting a bunch of people who were from the two different backgrounds that had no real knowledge of the other
one. Yeah.
They were just like, hey, you play heavy guitar, right?
Yeah.
You rap, right?
Yes.
Let's do them together.
Yeah.
And so like it wasn't until like those bonds had lasted long enough that they were like, wait, can you play the chug 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 thing differently? And then like that understanding was merged.
Yeah.
It's still very thin line to skate.
Yes. I sometimes find it. I mean, I focus mostly on hip hop, but I mean, every once in a while I'll pick up my guitar and just like, you know, there's something about picking up a guitar for the first time. My friend handed me a guitar and I was just like, cool, this is nice. And he's like, no, look at yourself in the mirror. And I was like, oh, never mind. This is nice.
Yeah. Oh, yep. That is one I know all too well.
So I definitely have like a metal background and I've really like dove both like back into it recently, like just listening to things like The Chariot, Norma Jean, and just things that I used to listen to when I was younger that I have a passion for.
I love that. Have you checked out any Killswitch Engage recently?
Oh, not recently, no.
It's always a good trip.
Really?
Go down that road.
Just wonder what they're doing.
Yeah.
Where are they at now?
Well, I mean, just like, even if you listen to the older stuff, it's always nice.
Yeah, I remember listening to Killswitch Engage.
Yeah, there was just that window of time where like they were firing on all cylinders. And so every 6 months, I just go back to a couple albums and I'm like, yes. Like hanging out with an old friend.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a good way to describe albums is like, I feel like I'm hanging out with an old friend.
You know, there's that like mental attachment of like the time periods. For sure. Like it does bring that nostalgia.
Yeah.
For me, it's that like certain albums I have just been studying my whole life, like really trying to figure out the nuances and the intricacies, like Demon Days. I know Demon Days down to like the millisecond.
Really? That's
just
cool.
Because there's so like when you take the time to like pull apart everything, there's so many cool little things happening all over the place that just you don't even understand or you don't even like process right away that they're little things.
Yeah. Oh, I've learned that recently with like music production that like I before I was like, it's all in the harmony, it's all in the leads. And then it's just like, no, it's like, it's in the foundation of building all these background sounds.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you can have your drums, but if your drums is just a kick and a snare, then like it's way too basic to be anything that's ear catching.
Yeah.
Ear candy is what I often hear it called.
Yes. Get that little earworm. All right. But getting back to the questions here.
Sure.
What was one of the first live shows you ever went to that was specifically one you wanted to go to? So like you saw it was happening, you got the tickets, you went to it.
Not my mom took me to the Blues Fest.
Yeah.
Okay. So the first concert that I got to see that I wanted to see was Atmosphere.
Okay.
Yeah, he had come to Bend and I was supposed to go with a friend, but she got grounded. So I guess I just went by myself and my cousin. And yeah, it was just super cool. Just like seeing something, it's seeing someone who I had only really heard over a CD, you know, or maybe seen like interviews with, like have them like right in front of you and like be able to do the thing. Like I always found that so impressive.
Yeah. There is something special about those like moments where you get to like see your like musical heroes. My first real show was Ozfest.
Oh,
so like that. I was like, there's 40 people I want to see.
Yeah.
And then, but yeah, it's still every time after that, I'm like, this is nice.
Yeah. There's something just about, like seeing your heroes and just being like it's one thing to like hear it. It's another thing to see and hear it.
Well, then how, like, I appreciate when, because, you know, bigger artists have figured out you can't just play the album live. Like, if you really want a good, memorable experience now, you got to zhuzh it up a little.
Sure.
So it's always fun to see what they do with it and how they do it, or even like the left turns they throw you. Like, I remember I went to go see Home Shake.
Okay.
If you're familiar. They're like higher fidelity, like lo-fi, but like indie.
Okay.
So like it's a terrible description.
Sure. Hi-fi, lo-fi.
Well, it's like it's not quite lo-fi. It's higher fidelity than that, but it's just like a
chill music.
Yeah, it's like if lo-fi enjoyed shoegaze and then somebody was just like, what if we just turn the highs up a little bit?
Okay.
Like, you know, somewhere in there. But it's very intricate. It's very like you just have to check it out. Check it out. Recommend it.
Yeah.
But I went and saw them live and they encored with a Deftones track. And just, I'm talking distortion up to 10, drums going banana. Like, so here was this, like, they were just vibing the whole time.
Yeah.
The whole time. It's not like they were like, we're going to pull out one crazy heavy song in the middle of it.
Yeah.
No, they just came back out and they were like, you want us to go crazy?
Yeah.
Like, yes. And then they did that and we were like, all right, bet.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry, we're not here to talk about me. We're here to talk about you.
I love learning. You got a podcaster on here, so I'll definitely stay interested.
Fair enough. Well, before we officially get into the now,
okay,
do you have a defining moment where you decided you wanted to take music more seriously?
2020, I would say. I'd taken a break from both comedy and music for about 2 years, and 2020, I'd broken up with my partner. She broke up with me, whatever, who's counting? But I think that, you know, I'd spent a lot of time not doing it, that when I was finally, her and I'd broken up, I was just sitting in a room by myself with like my guitar and my computer, and I was just like, why, what's holding me back besides me? And if I can't answer that, then like, why am I holding me back? And so that's when I started to try to record my first EP. And yeah, it was very much also just the idea that like, if let's say that it is the end, you know, it clearly wasn't. But let's say that it is, it's just like, what am I doing with my time? You know, like what am I really living each day like it could be my last, or is that just a saying I use?
Fair enough. Well, I dig that though. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Clearly, we made it past. So
we made it past.
We'll see what you're doing with it now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's go ahead and get into that. And we're going to get what I imagine is a very easy one out of the way.
Sure.
How'd you pick your artist name?
Ooh, yeah, I was actually lucky enough to be born with it.
Fair. But
Shout out
to the parents.
Yeah, thank you. I definitely went through a couple of them where I was like, you're a rapper, so you have to have a cool rap name.
Oh, what were some of them?
The one that I thought was like the coolest one was Spectral.
Oh, did you spell it with a K?
I should have. I
think somebody already did that. Which you would have taken it.
Yeah.
I don't know who's done the regular spelling.
Dodge that could have been awkward. Yeah, I had tried just a gang of names, and
what was the goofiest one? Like
goofiest one? The goofiest one was the comedian, because everybody thought that I was performing comedy, even though I was a musician with the name the comedian. It was so dumb. I don't know why I picked that.
Fair.
Yeah, I was just like, this is...
See, in a way, it could have worked, though, if you weren't a comedian.
Yeah.
Like, it almost would have played better, because everybody would have been like, oh, let's see, it's a spoonbender, trailblazer, the comedian?
Yeah, exactly.
that would have worked, but because you already were one, people were like, "Oh, you're just going to do your thing in the middle of music," which is a thing.
Which is a thing.
It doesn't always land.
Not always.
It's definitely a thing.
It's an energy thing. An energy thing. I've definitely tried to do sets of comedy in between like musicians and stuff, and I've just been like, these are two different energies.
Yeah, you have to like really know the crowd. I don't know if you know Big J Okerson.
Yep.
Yeah, he talks about like when he was touring with I think it was Slipknot.
Oh God.
As like comedic relief.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
So awkward.
Like I just can't put the two together, but you know, there's got to be a through way somewhere.
If you pulled it out, well done.
Yes. All right, now let's go ahead and let's talk about your writing process.
Okay, sure.
And we're going to break it up into chunks, but we're going to start right at the beginning.
Okay.
So when you get inspired, ready to make music, what do you do to get a track started?
So oftentimes I really enjoy samples. I really enjoy samples and like piecing together what was already a piece of music into something that is a new piece of music. I like messing with the rhythms, the timings. So I'll start off with like a sample, add some drums behind it. Bass is my weakest instrument. So that's... I'll try and save that to the end because like it'll take me out of it if I hear a whack bass line and everything else sounds good that I wrote. I'm just like, and yeah, then I'll try and add some leads and harmonies and some of that ear candy that we were talking about. And I have this kind of problem where like I try to write my songs like while I'm writing my songs. Like I try to write the lyrics while I'm writing the song, and that is tricky.
You know, that was literally going to be my very next question as somebody who's doing both sides of it.
Yep.
So I imagine it's not something you've mastered, the separation of the two yet.
Yeah. I think something that I'd heard in like a music production thing was just the idea of like, if you sit down to do blank, you sit down to do blank. If you sit down to do drums, then you only sit down to do drums. Don't worry about what the bass is doing. I think that kind of train of thought of like, I'm sitting down to write lyrics. I'm not worried about whether the hi-hat's off time, you know, but like as the person who made the hi-hat, I can't not hear it.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I think that approach can be taken a little bit further, even if you want some additional expansion.
Sure.
You should try to imagine yourself as the members of the group that play those things.
Yeah.
So don't just be like, I'm sitting down to write my drums. You are sitting down as the drummer.
Yeah.
So give the drummer another name. The drummer can be Bert. So every time you sit down to write drums,
my drummer
sitting down to write drums.
Yeah.
That way, when you're listening to it later and you're writing lyrics and you're like the hi-hat's off, you can be like, that's a note for Bert.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I think that can add another layer of like,
I like that.
Separating it just to give it a name. Give it a purpose.
Well, I think we just over identify when we're creating like that, you know, where it's just like, if this track isn't doing everything it's supposed to, it's because I didn't do everything I was supposed to.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, Bert messed it up.
Exactly. And just the acceptance of like received perception has almost nothing to do with any of that half the time. Like as long as it's not like obviously uncomfortable to listen to within the realm. Like I don't even want to use the word bad because again, perception. But like as long as you're like trying to like make it intentionally away, everybody's going to just take it however they want to. They're going to pick, like you could work so hard on a crazy hi-hat pattern, show somebody the track and they could be like, I like the bass drum.
Exactly.
Like the bass drum is on the...
And I hated the bass drum.
The bass drum is just one of the three. Like, so like it just, you know, that at the end of the day, one person I recommend checking out the interview of is Machado Majiga.
Okay.
If you don't know Machado, they just put out music all the time.
Sure.
All of the time.
That's hard.
All of the time. Like, more music than I think anybody who's ever been on the show ever.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And the whole philosophy was just keep putting stuff out. Like you're going to be figuring it out in real time, but if you're clearing the hard drive and making space for the new, you can grow on the things you learned as you make new things.
Well, and I think there's so much like there's so much that you learn from completing things, you know, like I think that hip hop producers and maybe even other producers as well, but we just get stuck in these loops of just like, okay, I made 8 bars and then that'll just keep going. And now I guess I'll just start another track. So then you're just like, but you never worked on a song. You don't know how it progresses. You don't even know how it starts, but you have eight bars of like what sounds cool if it all plays at the same time, you know? So I think like, just having that separation of being able to be like, okay, what does it look like what's the horizontal? Is that the one?
Yes.
Vertical? Yeah, horizontal. I did it. Oh, heck yeah.
I always remember the horizon.
Yeah.
That's the only thing. Somebody told me that once. I was like, damn, that makes too much sense.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah, I was like, that's why it's called. One of those is named after the other.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, exactly.
I imagine I know which one, but I'm not a doctor. So
Yeah.
I'm not going to claim.
One of these is named after like skateboarding, I guess. I don't.
Yes.
Pew, pew, pew.
All right. Getting back to the making of a track.
Sure.
Once you get how do you go about the words? Are you pen and paper? Are you freestyle? Are you in the phone?
I'm in the phone. I try to search like I'll scan text like all the time and just try to find like like 2 words next to each other, 3 words next to each other, anything to just kind of like spawn an idea of like if I just saw the words "we believe in," I could finish that sentence and then but it's like I feel like I always have to have because my brain's always just so chaotic. I have to have something to like look at and then kind of like make sense of and piece it together.
Yeah.
It's very Da Vinci Code.
Yeah. Very, Good Will Hunting.
Yeah, absolutely. Everything just, I'm like, school, I got this. Just trust me.
It's like that scene in The Hangover. There we go. I just need to add the third.
Yeah, rules of 3. Thank you.
And then once you get a track finished, writing. So it doesn't have to be like recorded and released.
Okay,
but you've gotten it there. You're memorizing it. How long does it usually take you to feel comfortable enough to perform a track?
Yeah. I would say depends on how excited I am about it, It depends on if I'm feeling really confident about it. Like there was a song that I've been performing recently that I don't have recorded that I really enjoy, but I think that I lost the train of thought. Ask one more time.
How long does it usually take you to feel comfortable to perform?
Comfortable, yeah. So I had a track that I really liked, and I was performing it, and then there was like some other tracks that were made alongside it that like I haven't performed live until like super recently, like within the last week or whatever. So I think it's the one that I started performing. I was super excited about, so I was able to like get it out there. The other ones, it took a little bit more time.
Gotcha. Okay. And now we're going to go ahead and talk about some of your music now.
Let's do it.
So I jumped on Yield Spotify.
Okay.
You've got the 2 primary projects on there. Your A Chance to Start Again EP and then the single Better Man.
Yeah.
And after checking it all out, I got to say, you got some chops.
Thank you. Thank you.
Your beats are solid.
Thank you.
I do love the like Nelly, Tim McGraw-esque track, No Horse in This Race with CJ Howley.
Love it.
That I was like,
yeah,
over and
over again.
That's just a shout out to you, Nelly. I don't know what you're doing now.
Yeah. Tim McGraw, is he okay?
I imagine country is thriving right now.
Yeah, they're doing all right.
Country is in a resurgence at the moment.
Perfect. Yeah. Now's my chance. I have a Tim McGraw track.
There you go. Tim. Let's get on it.
Let's do it.
I'm sure he watches. So.
Well, of course. But
getting back to it, I was checking out, and I really like your style. I really like your delivery. I think it's cool how like you don't like hide stuff heavy in metaphor, but you still like play around with the words.
Yes.
And as somebody who walks in the realm of comedy, I imagine that just there's got to be some play in there that's probably just on both sides of the road. You know what I mean?
Yep. I think there's a line in there that is tried to save me from hitting bottom, Gwen Stacy. And that was like. That felt so good.
Dang it, I can't use it in my set now.
Yeah, but it was a cool time, like just that line almost specifically is like I have always tried to create a very clear separation between my comedy and my music. Because like I like comedy, I like music, it's back to rap metal,
Yeah.
They don't need to be the same. But like something that I've always loved about hip hop is the wordplay, I heard the line the other day, this cat said, I'm gonna teach you how to get a buzz up like I'm training a receptionist. And I was like,
okay.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
But it's stuff like that really like it makes you think. It sells a point even almost like better. So yeah, wordplay. God, love it.
Hell yeah. I was checking out your music video for Everything Fell in Place.
Yeah.
I am curious, what made you pick that track as the one to do a music video of?
That track is the one that's probably the closest to my heart. My sobriety from alcohol's meant a lot to me. So I think that having something that was representative of that that, especially like a time in my life, like that song was a breakup song. Like that was me going through a breakup. And, even later than that, it's still to me, it's still like that, hey, I was going through some really unhealthy patterns and like my sobriety is important to me. So I think that that's why that one was so close to me. And it's also a song that like a lot of people have come up, like I do a lot of recovery shows and stuff like that. A lot of folks have come up and been like, that's the one that like I needed today.
Oh yeah.
So
thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Now I want to pivot for a moment.
Sure.
And talk about another project you've got going on.
Okay.
The Smoke Break.
The Smoke Break.
Yes.
Oh,
yes. I mean,
yeah.
I know you do it with a small cohort of co-hosts.
I do.
You've been doing it for, how many years have you been doing it for? Because it cuts off at episode 46 when I was scrolling down.
Yep. So
The origin
was Shady Pines Radio.
Oh, shout out to Shady Pines Radio.
Yeah. Absolutely. No, they helped me get my start. They had asked me to do a show. I'd always wanted to do something called the Smoke Break. I never knew what it was going to be. I just knew that
I have a name.
I have a name, and I had some really great conversations with my mom, and I'd had some really great conversations with like a best friend, and I think just trying to recreate that comfort, because like I work as a peer support mentor now-ish, but like just the idea of like nobody's talking down to you. Like I'm not coming at you from a therapist perspective. I'm coming at you from a friend that has also doesn't know the answers. So I think that the Smoke Break, just for that reason, has kind of stayed like that. Yeah, but yeah, it started back in 2020.
Gotcha.
When Shady Pines started up.
That makes sense. Okay, so you're in it from the beginning.
Yeah.
Well, I dig it. You're going strong now. You got a whopping 133 episodes, so you're sticking with it. I love to see the consistency and the intro. Really, it's super short, super simple, and then you're out there, you're chopping it up real quick, and you're into it. The vibe is really cool. I enjoy it a lot.
I appreciate that.
I am kind of curious, how do you decide on the topics?
The topics are often things that either the guest has been dealing with or I've been dealing with. I would say it's less about things that I'm dealing with recently. Like I would say there was definitely a long period of time where I would use it as almost my vent session. But I think more often I've been curious, like what other people want to bring to it, because, like how many times are we going to talk about paranoia? Like we've done it 40, 50 times. It hasn't gotten any better. Maybe talking about it isn't the thing that fixes it. But I think that, I'm always curious, like what other people's experiences are, especially because I talk to a lot of comedians. All we talk about is the things like, if there's not a punchline at the end of it, then like, why'd you tell me?
Yeah.
And so giving them a space to say like, you don't have to have a punchline at the end of this. You can just tell me has been, it's been extremely helpful for me, and I hope hopefully.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, everybody of the episodes I've seen, everybody seems very involved. That's something I really like. Is sometimes you get those guests that are just like, yes, I know what you're talking about. I have opinions on this matter.
Yeah.
But everyone that I watched, it does seem like everybody's very engaged. And it doesn't seem in like you're just reading off of like, a whiteboard in the background for like every talking point. It does seem like conversation, which as this show can attest to, is a big fan of.
Yeah.
Big fan. Now, I am curious, though, you do run a very tight, like 45-ish minutes.
Yep.
I have never been able to run a tight any window of time ever when it comes to stuff. How do you do? Like, do you have a timer in the room or like?
Yes.
Like, okay.
100%. So there is actually, it's just in my brain. No, God, no. So there's a 15-minute timer. At 14 minutes, I just tell the guests, I'm just like, hey, don't tell me a long story at 14 minutes.
Okay.
So every time at the 14-minute mark, I just say, don't tell me a long story right now. And then I just wrap it up at that point, and then just do 15-minute segments.
Gotcha.
So,
okay.
Yeah, so we take a pause in between, but like it is often like recorded straight through, where it's just like, all right, we're gonna take a break, and we're back. You know.
Oh, I know that one well. I know that one very well.
The peek behind the curtain. I can't move these; they won't let me.
Yes. Well, only one of these curtains is a real wall. Too.
Ooh, see?
Won't tell you which one though?
This is exciting.
And then. What's the big picture? Like, do you have a like where you want it to go?
Where I want it to go,
or are you just kind of cruising?
I think ultimately I just want conversations around mental health to not feel as scary or to feel as rigid or, like all of the life that would be in a conversation taken out of it by having a conversation about this certain topic.
Mhm.
I think that oftentimes the people who talk about topics like that do it in such a way that like it almost it makes you feel like you can't understand. You know,
Yeah.
it's like, well, don't you know about the thing and the thing? And it's well, then I guess
They talk about it
you're
like
broken.
like they're informed and you're not.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And I've always hated that. And that's why I kind of like the peer support, you know, model of, you know, like I don't have the answer either, but I can
Yeah.
listen, you know.
Yeah,
Like, I
exactly.
don't offer answers on that show. I will never be like, this is what you should do about that. I'll be like, oh, hey, so what happened next? You know, like why did you choose to do that? You know?
Yeah, you're expanding on the experience more than trying to come up with a solution.
Yeah.
Yeah, that because
Everyone seeks solutions.
Yeah,
Everybody's just
exactly.
like, you know what you need to do.
well, that and I think understanding the experience, which again, big model on this show,
Sure.
understanding the experience leads to answers.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Understanding someone's answer doesn't.
Yes.
Because
absolutely.
your answer and my answer are not the same answer
Mhm.
for any multitude of reasons. You know what I mean? That just they're so situational that figuring out your own answers can come from shared experiences. You could be
Yes.
like, this is how I went through it.
Mhm.
There might be some things that attach. There might be some things that not. At
Yeah.
the very least, we now share the two experiences that we shared with each other.
Yeah.
And that leads to camaraderie. So
Absolutely.
you won something.
Yeah,
There's still a
absolutely.
win from that scenario.
Yeah. Well, and I think honestly that like, you know, if more people listened first instead of trying to offer a solution, because I feel like most oftentimes, like I love my mom to death, but like I'll call her and be like, hey, things are bad. And she'll be like, well, have you tried? And I'm just like, that can sometimes just make you feel like the other person doesn't think that you had thought of
Yeah.
doing anything about your problem.
Yeah, and then you have to be the monster who's like, of course I did.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
Exactly.
Especially if you like, especially if it's mom saying it, you taught me these things that you're now asking if I did.
Yes, exactly. Have you tried? Yes, I was given a guidebook by you.
Yeah.
So I've seen people kind of pull back when you tell them what to do. So I think oftentimes I will say what I've done, and if that lands for you as an answer of something to try, cool. If it doesn't, then like you know one thing that you don't want to try.
Exactly.
So-
Exactly. Well, thank you for going through that with us for a little bit. Now I do want to turn the focus towards comedy
Sure.
because I'm a fan myself.
Yeah.
And I've when my dad got TiVo because he was the Lord of eBay, he figured it out.
Okay.
They did all the normal shows like Picket Fences and Gilmore Girls and One Tree Hill.
Of course.
I TiVo'd every episode of Comedy Central.
Mm,
Every single one. And
yeah.
there's one that was on like I remember the first time I saw like a late night one.
Okay.
It was The Book of Grier by David Grier. It doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah. Okay.
Like,
Cool. I'm like that. I've never
I know
heard this.
I know the name of it. I know
Yeah.
the person who did it. It does not exist. Like Comedy Central is notorious for just deleting stuff.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And so it's just gone. But I've always been a fan for a while. So these
Yeah.
questions don't even come off of a script anywhere or anything
Sure.
like that. It's just
Ask
kind of
away.
me to get into it.
Yeah.
So what was your first like big comedy experience? Like not so, no, you know, not Iowa, but like the first one where you were like, oh, this is a serious moment where like I get to dig in.
Yeah, I would say it was honestly, the funny thing is it was in Iowa because I had gotten asked to do a show for Ben Kronberg, who's like
Oh,
a
cool.
very short, like one-liner type
Mhm.
comedian. And they were just like, yeah, your style is very much that.
Yeah.
So it was really cool to be asked to perform with somebody who like I had seen on Comedy Central.
Mm-hmm.
I would say outside of that, there was this moment when I was working at Helium Comedy Club.
Mhm.
And one of the comics was just like, hey, if anybody wants to do a guest set, this is the episode, or, you know, this is the
Yeah.
chance. This is your chance. And so I was like, okay. So I went up there and did 5 minutes. And like my first joke like went from like a boo to like an applause break.
Oh,
Like, because it was just a pun, you know, where it was just like some people love him, some people hate him,
Yeah.
and some people groan and laughed too. So it was like a groan that turned into like this huge applause. And when I got off stage, I was like picking up cups and everything, and this guy hands me some money, you know, gives me a high five. He's like, "Hey, good job," and I was like, "Cool." I walk away. I look at it. It was $100 bill. And I was just like, that guy's drunk. I don't think he meant to give me that. I'm going to go give this back. And I went back to him and I was just like, hey, I think you gave me too much. He's like, I know exactly how much I gave you. Keep doing what you're doing. And I was like,
Whoa.
Wow. Okay.
Whoa. Shout out to that guy.
Yeah. $100
You know who?
for 5 minutes? That's the most I've ever made.
I was going to say, yeah, it's
good money.
Lawyer money right
good
there.
money.
Yeah. Wow. You got lightly promoted for 5 minutes there.
5 minutes.
Whoa.
You're right.
That's rad.
Yeah.
And you've performed at Helium since?
Yeah, I've done like the competition and stuff like that. I've done a couple like shows there and stuff, but yeah, not a whole heck of a lot.
Gotcha. And now, are you very active with it now? Is it something you're staying full time on?
Yeah, I actually just recently won. I am the champion of the 2025 One-Liner Madness competition.
Oh, congratulations!
Thank you.
Well deserved.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, so that was a recent win that I'm celebrating. Haven't even posted it on social media yet. So you're getting a first
announcement.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll see who does it first?
Yeah. If they'll give me those pictures.
Jimmy, put this episode out tomorrow.
Please don't. I need that picture. They won't send it.
I got it.
No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, it was. I don't know. It was very affirming because like I've definitely since I tell short jokes because I don't think people have the attention span for anything I have to say. So I'm just like keep it short, keep it concise, make them laugh. So I kind of like perfected it and got really good at it. And so when they had like a one-liner competition, the funny thing is like I was in such a bad mood that I was like, of course I'm going to do well.
Yeah, you were like, let me burn this to the ground.
Absolutely. I was just like, if I can just go out the first round, then I can go home, get really stoned. It'll be awesome. I was like so excited. And then I made it to the next round and then the next round and then the next round. I was like, oh God, I'm going to be here all night. There's like 64 comics, each doing one joke. And I was just like, oh God, this is going to take forever. But it went relatively fast. But yeah, it was very ironic that I was like, this is the night I want to go home so bad. And of course I'm going to do well.
Of course. Well, at least you won.
Yes.
At least you won.
Yes.
That's a fun one.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then as far and we're not going to dig into the process much, I promise. This isn't about to become a comedy podcast. But like, what is a part of the process that like, what is the part of the process that like just gives back to you the most? What's the part that you're like, every time it happens, you're like, this is why I do this.
Yeah. I would say there's two things. Number one is when I'm able to connect with somebody over a joke of like, oh, like I thought I was the only one. Thank you so much. That I thought I was the only one feeling I genuinely love. Number two is when I come up with a pun from a word that somebody just gave me because I reverse engineer everything. It's also part of my hip hop writing experience because it's like I need the last rhyming word and then I have to figure out how to get to it. Same thing with comedy. I have the punchline. I know that the joke is, contemplation or whatever. How do I get there? So it's always reverse engineering. So I get really excited when I hear a new word and I'm like, oh, I never, there was something, what was the bully thing? Hyperbole. So I had heard the word, I'd said the word hyperbole and I was just like, that's a fun word, and I was just like, hey, I remember that this kid in school used to beat me up and he had ADHD. But he beat me up all the time, but that might be hyperbole. Yeah.
Okay.
It's pretty, yeah, one of a kind. But my brain is constantly doing that. So it's like whenever I hear a word, I'm just like, what can I do with this? What can I do with this?
Yeah.
So it's like an excitement for words.
I'm going to tell you, I did almost hear that joke 100% in Rodney Dangerfield's voice. Like that one just, hey.
So some of my jokes are like that. Sometimes.
I mean, him and Mitch had such a foothold on the line.
Yeah.
That, like you almost like, it's not even that you're doing a Rodney Dangerfield style joke.
Yes.
It's just that they just did it so well that almost the better yours is, almost the more it might sound like them.
Exactly. Like when people compare me to Mitch Hedberg, I'm not like, oh no, that was super talented and passed way too soon.
That's like the one they know the most. Like the people who don't know Rodney know Mitch. You know what I mean? Like,
and people who don't know both are like, and then the other people are like Stephen Wright. Like that.
Well, there's plenty of people now. But like those are like the ones that like the masses will probably know.
For sure.
Probably know.
Definitely.
And then I guess. What is a bit you're working on right now? Like what's
I'm working on?
Share?
Okay, I'll share one.
And then we'll go back to regularly scheduled questions.
Sure. No, a bit that I've been working on is, do you know what a double bind is?
Not by name.
Okay. So
I have a feeling I'm about to, though.
You are about to learn what a double bind is. It basically means that you're darned if you do, you're darned if you don't, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'll give you an example. So there's 2 rules, right? Number 1, you can't call me the N-word. Number 2, you have to answer the question. Okay?
Okay.
So, can you call me the N-word?
No.
Okay. What if I told you that it would make me as a black person feel better if you called me the N-word? Would you call me the N-word?
No.
Okay. So because of your white fragility, me as a black person this person's racist. They won't even call me the N-word. That's what I'm working on.
Okay.
Okay. It's just kind of fun and exciting for me because it kind of like flips it on its
head. All right.
And it kind of creates a discomfort where nothing wrong gets said or done, but everyone's just kind of like, oh no, this could be weird.
Like they always have to say no, so you have auto saved them from cancel.
Exactly.
Nothing that so they can feel uncomfortable with the question, and 100% comfortable with the answer.
Safe,
smart,
smart.
I love
like a
that
safety net of like this. Yeah, okay, cool. I never thought about it like that, but yeah.
Well, I'm gonna steal that joke from you now and
it's all yours. Yeah. I would love to watch you deliver it.
All right. Well, thank you for going down that road with us.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me down it.
Yeah. But now let's go ahead. Like I said, we're gonna get back to them. The regular questions here.
Sure.
And I want to zoom out for a moment. I want to kind of look at more music as a whole.
Sure.
What are you listening to right now?
Lots of Con.
Okay. Yeah.
That cat. The first album that I heard, Abstract Art. I was just like, oh, this person is like. They understand what it's like to deal with SI, they understand what it's like to deal with, like being kind of crazy. He talks about being schizophrenic and stuff like that. I'm schizoaffective. So, but I always hear rappers say that. So I'm just like, are you just saying that because it sounds cool or like, but I mean, sometimes the way he talks about it, I'm just like, oh yeah, you're dealing like he talks about paranoia and stuff like that. And it's just, I've always connected with music that talks about the things that I just don't feel like get talked about, like if, like other hip hop was just like, oh, guns, money, women. I'm just like, okay, if I don't have any of those, what do I listen to?
Yeah.
And it's real sad hip hop.
Fair. Yes. There's a whole realm of that now.
There sure is.
And then before we move into the next portion, this next question is probably the densest question in the interview.
Okay, cool.
So we talked about, your experience with music, the actions, the reactions, but when it's just you and music, one-on-one, what does music give back to you?
I would say music gives back to me the thing that I'm trying to give, which is that feeling of I've been there, or I thought I was the only one. So oftentimes music will give me that feeling of like, hey, you're not the only one.
Okay, so it brings you like connection.
Connection, yeah, definitely. That's a good word for it. Thank
you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Now we're going to move on to some hypothetical questions.
Okay, let's do it.
And for these, sky's the limits. The questions are all made up, so the answers are allowed to be as well.
Okay.
But this first one is pretty straightforward. If you could work with any one person, the only requirement is they have to be alive.
Okay.
Who would you want to work with, and how would you want to work with them?
I would want to work with Khan so I can figure out how to not breathe but still rap, because that is insane. I used to say Macklemore, but everybody gave me crap for it because he made Thrift Shop or whatever. So which is fine. He also made Same Love. Like what other rapper was talking about like homophobia? None of them.
He's also not that far from us. He lives in Seattle.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, it could happen. Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows? I've talked about it on enough podcasts when people are like, who would you? And I'm just like, honestly, I think he's a dope cat. His song about drug addiction and stuff like that, that's stuff that I've battled throughout my life. So, like, seeing somebody once again talk about the thing that doesn't always get talked about is always meant a lot. But for my stock answer, I'll say Khan.
Fair enough. And then subsequently, who's a local person that you're aware of that you haven't gotten to connect with yet, but you would like to?
Yeah. Emiliano raps. Really love Emiliano. He's super talented, super funny, super creative, just aligns with a lot of my beliefs and just, mutual aid work and stuff like that. Like I did a show with him one time at a houseless shelter, the Right to Dream. And we just went over there, performed, and, it was cool giving something to people that like they might not have otherwise had access to. How often are they getting chased out of any establishment that they wouldn't be able to experience live music like that? So He's a really dope cat, and he also put me on in 2020 when the protests were happening. He was just like, hey, they asked me to perform, but I think that I want to give some of my time to you. So, like that meant a whole hell of a lot.
Yeah.
So.
Damn. All right.
Yeah.
We definitely need
Liliana, track them down.
You know what to do. Have them in the comments. Let's make that happen.
Track them down.
And then for this next one, like I said before, sky's the limits, and it's pretty literal in this sense. But if you could perform anywhere in the world, and you wouldn't have to worry about crowd access, building stability, power, guaranteed the best lineup, guaranteed the best show, and it doesn't have to be a venue. It could be anywhere. Where would you want to perform?
I want to say Japan because that would be really cool. But if the sky's the limit, space. Is space? Wait, is that past the sky? Did I go past the limit?
Technically, yeah.
Never mind. I went past the limit. Somewhere in the upper atmosphere that is not quite space, but not quite on Earth.
And in that ship that they take to people used to like zero gravity.
Exactly, one of those
for like 45 seconds at a time.
Dude, I would love that. That's like 16 bars,
Yeah, for sure. If you get quick enough.
Exactly, yeah.
You pull like a Tech 9 or a Prof or something like that.
If Con teaches me, I might be able to get
there you go. There you go. Hell yeah. All right, and then to wrap up the hypothetical questions. If you could get one more album from anybody, they could be alive, they could be dead, they could have not put out an album in 100 years. They could have put out an album yesterday.
Yeah.
Who would you want an album from?
Man, who would I want an album from that hasn't... I would want an album from Atmosphere that sounds like his older stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he got old at the same rate that I did, and he's just like, mortgage, and I'm just like, I don't want to think about this.
You're like, come on.
Yeah, come on. I don't have time for this.
Yeah.
It's like food stamps, and I'm just like, this is too real. Just rap and make it fun. Please.
Oh, yeah, that's a solid answer. All right, with that being said, we're going to go ahead and start wrapping this up.
Sure.
What can we look forward to in the next 6 months?
Next 6 months, 5 new songs.
Nice.
5 new songs in the next 6 months. You can quote me on that. We're gonna count this day. What's today?
The
third.
Yeah,
Okay, cool.
sounds right.
Yeah.
By the time this comes out, it'll be a little bit after that. But we're gonna call it the third.
But that way they know. They'll be like, oh, a month's already passed. They better be on this.
Yeah.
So next 6 months, I want to get this album out because it's really important to me, and I want to be able to show the growth that I've had over the last couple of years.
Yeah, hell yeah. We're definitely looking forward to that.
Yeah.
For this next one, go and look straight at your camera. Tell everybody how they can find you.
You can find me on all platforms, Spotify, YouTube, if you want to check out the podcast. And you can also find me on Instagram at It's Zane Thomas. 3 words.
Oh, yeah. And then any other plugs, any other shout outs, anybody else you want to put on while you're on here?
Shout out. Okay. No, I don't have any right now.
Fair enough.
Nope.
All right. Then with that being said, I've got one last question to go. But before we do, I'm going to steal the camera for just a second.
Go for it.
As always, y'all, please make sure to like, subscribe, push all the buttons, do all the things. I don't know where they are, but you do, and I trust you. And one more shout out to the Brothers Apothecary, Ronald Records, and Portland Water. Thanks for keeping us hydrated. And with that being said, the final question. And this is entirely up to your interpretation.
Sure.
But in all of music, what is an album you feel is more on the obscure side? So it's a bit of a deep cut. It's one not a lot of people would know. It's one you think everybody should know.
I think the album is called Reboot by The Algorithm. You ever listen to The Algorithm?
The name sounds very familiar.
Very metal and electronic.
God.
So they do the perfect fusion, and I found it one day and I was like, this is super dope. This is like what I wanted to create, but never came close to. So if you want to hear the stuff that I wish I could do.
Well, the Algorithm, if you're watching.
Yeah. We love you.
Yes. All right. But with that being said, we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. Thank you so much for joining us today.
I appreciate you. I had a blast.
Yeah. And this has been another exciting episode of Jimmy's Jam Box. I'm Jimmy.
And I'm Zane Thomas.
And we're signing off. Later, y'all.
Later, players.
That's a wrap.
This is not a podcast. This is a show.
Keep jamming.